How did a simple blood test go horribly wrong? My doctor called me into his office and said the bone marrow test showed something impossible about my father and me. You're not just incompatible for the transplant, Dr. Farmington said, staring at the test results like they were written in alien language. These results indicate you and your father don't share any genetic markers at all. I sat there while my brain completely short-circuited. He's my dad, and he needs this transplant, or he's going to die within 6 months, I said. Run the test again because your lab obviously screwed up. Dr. Farmington shook his head and pulled up more results on his computer. We ran it 3 times. We also compared your DNA to your mother's sample from last week. Neither of your parents are biologically related to you. The room started spinning, and I grabbed the chair arms like I was on a crashing plane. Are you telling me I'm adopted? Those words made zero sense. Dr. Farmington leaned forward, looking genuinely freaked out. Either that, or there was a mix-up at the hospital when you were born. My mind went straight to my dad lying in a hospital bed 3 floors up, getting weaker every day while waiting for a donor match. If I'm not their biological kid, then their real child is out there somewhere and could save my dad's life, I said. Dr. Farmington nodded grimly. My mother basically collapsed when Dr. Farmington explained everything. I gave birth at Riverside General 32 years ago, and I held you the second he was born. She looked at me, sobbing. My father already looked like a ghost from his leukemia treatments, but somehow got even paler. The hospital has to have records from that day, he said, in a voice that barely worked anymore. Dr. Farmington started calling Riverside General, but warned us that finding records from 3 decades ago would be basically impossible. Even if we can identify which babies were born on the same day, tracking those people down now will take time, he said, looking at my dying father. Time was the one thing we absolutely didn't have. I spent the next 2 days in the creepy basement of Riverside General, digging through boxes of old files with some records coordinator who kept complaining about her allergies. The hospital had barely digitized anything from the 90s, so we were searching through nasty paper documents that smelled like someone died on them. Here's the nursery log from your birth date, she said, sliding over this ancient binder. According to the log, only 3 baby boys were born within 12 hours of each other that day. One died as a baby, according to a note scribbled in the margin. Another family moved to Japan when the kid was 2. That left one name, Oscar. No last name because water damage had destroyed that part of the form, but there was a partial address pointing to the suburbs. Finding Oscar took me down an insane rabbit hole of property records and old phone books until I found a high school yearbook from the right time period. The second I saw his senior photo, my legs nearly gave out. He looked exactly like my dad at 18 down to every tiny detail. Same weird nose that curved slightly left. Same heavy eyebrows that looked like caterpillars. Same dimpled chin that I'd always wondered why I didn't inherit. The yearbook said Oscar was raised by his grandmother after his parents died when he was 2. His grandmother's obituary from 5 years ago listed him as her only survivor, but there was no current address anywhere. And my mother remembered something that completely changed the game. There was this night nurse in the nursery who seriously creeped me out, she said suddenly. She kept coming into my room to check on Barrett, me, even when he was sleeping perfectly fine, and she said this bizarre thing about how some babies were meant for different paths. We hunted down employment records and found her name was Valerie Weiss, but she'd quit Riverside General just 2 weeks after I was born. The records coordinator found her personnel file, and it was full of red flags. 3 disciplinary notes the week before my birth for being in restricted areas, asking weird questions about specific families, and the last note said she'd been caught messing with infant ID bracelets when that wasn't even her job. I finally found Oscar through some DNA ancestry website where he'd uploaded his results 6 months ago, probably looking for family just like I was. His profile said he wanted answers about his biological parents, who supposedly died when he was young. When I messaged him explaining everything, he replied within literally 2 minutes. I've been waiting for this message my entire life because I know exactly what happened that night at Riverside General. We agreed to meet at this old diner between our cities the next morning, and I drove there feeling like I might puke the whole way. Oscar was already waiting in a corner booth facing the door when I walked in, and seeing him in person was like watching my dad's younger self sitting there eating pancakes. So my biological father is dying, he said after I explained about the leukemia, and I watched completely horrified as this huge smile spread across his face like Christmas had come early. Full story on the channel below.